I'm that girl who wants to say, welcome back, beautiful souls. I truly do enjoy feeling into your energy as we are having these conversations. And it's almost an interesting experience that I feel into your thoughts and feelings randomly, right? Not a perv, promise. But I sort of feel like when I'm talking, my teams are connecting into you still to feel what is the most appropriate information that needs to be delivered. And they are hearing your thoughts, hearing your needs. And sometimes when you are still asking them for questions and for clarification on certain things, and you're not noticing their signs, or you are noticing their signs, but you need more confirmation. This seems to be the confirmation that people are seeking, which is fantastic, right? It's insanely fantastic to know that while I'm recording this today, it may be in my perceived future that you're listening and discovering these sessions and they are applicable for you right now as you're listening. It's amazing, right? It is so amazing how these things sort of work. And of course, I love to be of service, to be able to help assist anyone to be able to understand sort of like the basics of metaphysics. I'm certainly not able to give you anything more than that. But listen to the sessions, because when you listen to the sessions, the higher dimensional statements are always so much more profound than, say, just a 3D human vessel just trying the best way they can to mansplain the crap out of the higher perspective of how we should focus and perceive things or not. It's all choices, right? So there's that. So today they want me to talk about fear. Ugh, right? People are more afraid of fear slightly than being afraid of love. We know that why we're afraid of love, right? We've sort of been conditioned to not feel worthy because we're still trained to compare each other, to perceive what is valuable and what is not valuable, what is pleasing and what is not pleasing, blah, 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 blah. And it's all very external, very materialistic and visually beauty, right? Like, let's just look at fashion. Okay, let's just look at fashion just for a second. I'm not a fashion buff by any means, and I do know some couture houses, but that's not really saying much, is it? So there's that. So look at the fashion and what used to be trendy and what's not. And if you're in one of those fashion circles, you're constantly trying to keep up with the trends. And it would be outrageous to wear last season's trend, right? Like disgusting, hysterical. And, it's a lot of effort and energy to kind of keep up with that kind of trend, right? It's quite superficial. You can appreciate good classics, but, if you're trying to be officially trendy, it seems to be a lot of effort and work, and it's never really the true person's wardrobe. It's their stylist or something like that. And it's kind of a war on stylists and trends and designers and blah, 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 right? Look how fascinated and how fixated so many people get on trends of clothes, right? So it's really interesting how we've kind of changed from just learning how to survive, protect for our family, protect for our tribes, and look how we've evolved into fashion wars. It's interesting, right? So random conversation to have today, like many of them, right? They just sort of seem to be plucked out of nowhere that they want me to discuss, for us to think about. And I think they're wanting us to really look at the behaviors of humanity and how we've got to where we are and what we are now as we are here. And what is the things that really focus and matter on people? And could it be said that certain lockdowns and certain mandates and a whole lot of changes in our lifestyles and routines have kind of taken away all the frivolous things to some degree, as many people are noticing price rises. And so, everything that is happening to humanity is super purposeful, and we know why. But remember when we started having certain things, let's talk about the lockdowns, right? In sessions, we were told that the lockdowns were a gift to humanity. And if you had told me that the first week, I would have doubted that. I would have scoffed at that. That did not feel like a gift to humanity. That actually felt like a weird imprisonment, that we were all isolated, and it was a scary thing because, you know, I certainly have never been afraid of the virus, but I was afraid that people were going to be even more disconnected and fractured than they already were. So, you know, it's so interesting when we look back at how we process things. And, you know, some people were definitely afraid of the virus, terrified, in fact, and so grateful to be locked away in their homes in fear of others. So it's interesting. How did you feel about that? Were you afraid? And how do you overcome being afraid? Do you just go with the places, go with each stage and just see how it feels, and then when that is over and the lockdowns are over, then you realize you don't need to be afraid anymore? Or did you do the processing of just noticing your feelings and noticing your reactions and your behaviors, and then value, is there something I should be afraid of? May not be the most best analogy to have for this, because I know so many people still feel very afraid of the virus. So let's see what else we can talk about that tripped you into fear, to see how you processed and work through that fear. Often, if not always, people are afraid of something because they don't fully understand it, or see the metaphysical perspective of it, or see all the lessons and purposes of it. So it is so interesting. So let's just now imagine, so you've got all these experiences in your life that you can ponder about to see how your natural behavior and your natural responses go when you are given an opportunity to go into fear, and see what works out, how that unfolds for you. And so let's think about a future fear. What if, I don't even know if I should say something that is going to happen, or whether I could just make up an imaginary something and see how we would feel about it. As we learned in many sessions, quite a lot of you who listen to the quantum sessions have heard about the laser, and it has scared you to your core. And I understand that it was quite a big sort of information that keep coming out in many sessions with many clients, and still comes out in all sessions with all clients when they ask about it in sessions. So it's very interesting to learn why that has to happen, and how that has to happen, and when that has to happen. We can understand and respect it all. And we ask in sessions, not because we're nosy, but because we're trying to understand how's the best way for the client to process the responses that needs to be processed when that event occurs. And the subconscious will say, well, now they already know about it, they've released the fear of it. Because I will ask the client's subconscious, can we stop it? Could we just put a pause on that? Pin it. Let's see next time we need that. And the subconscious will say, no, it has to happen. You know that. And I will say, oh, really? Well, tell me more about that, because my client would love for it to stop. Please and thank you. And I'm using my free will to see if I can stop the laser. And they will just know that I am playing with them. But my client needs to feel the seriousness of the subconscious channeled through their bodies to very firmly say, it is unstoppable, unfortunately. But humans have to experience this horrible event that has been inflicted upon humans for those lessons, those exit points, those experiences. Gaia's soul needed to experience it. There's lots of things that go on and are necessary. And we know, we asked as we were discovering, dawdling through this information, we asked a subconscious, could you stop it? We've asked many times that, but also, well, who's doing this? And, you know, who's got the big orders then? And is this best to come sooner or later, or what needs to occur? I can't remember all the questions I've asked about it because it's all of them. I feel like at this point it's all of them. And so, there's that. But I understand that people are curious about it and want to prepare and know how to prepare, because while we're in this luxury of denial right now, because it hasn't happened and it's just words and we don't want to buy into it because it gives us fear, how do we process the fear? People who are fixated on future fears rob themselves from today and rob themselves for making these connections to all these people that we should be making connections to, reconnect with family and friends who have been still locking themselves away for various reasons. And we may have locked some of our friends and family away for various reasons because they are prickly cactuses, as we call those people who are super afraid and in fear and very emotionally hurt. So they grow prickles out to prick us because hurt people hurt people. So we know that, but have you thought about reaching out to them lately, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they have had many opportunities to grow and evolve themselves and are open to your love now? Open to at least an email or a message or a quick phone call to drop them a line to say, I'm thinking of you, or wishing you well, hope all is well, trust all is well, keep safe out there, or whatever the going current formal conversation starter is these days. And so when you are genuinely caring about that person and truly wishing them well, because all is well, it wouldn't hurt you to be able to write to those people with a love message, a love bubble to them, would it? It wouldn't actually. And, often these people will tell you when they are still hurt and in fear and afraid of anyone sharing the truth or a higher perspective, because they will not respond. Everyone's really good at ghosting people now. It's quite a fashion. So why don't you start creating little love messages for those friends and family that probably need to be checked on, to be letting know that they're not alone, to let them know that they are thought about and cared for, and missed in your social circles. Having those kind of just invitations to love them, to give them the opportunity to love, not only shows how mature you are in overcoming and healing from all of their prickles that I've given you in the past, to be able to just reach out. And those people that are on your minds, that your teams are wanting you to reach out to them. So the other thing that the teams are wanting me to say is about soul families. Remember soul families? Aren't they fantastic? And we just miss them dearly. I do. And it's quite painful when you know that, we're on all these different missions and we can't catch up. And you miss their support and their true love, because you know that in other lifetimes you had profound true love and support from them. And so while we're on these independent missions, having these fantastic experiences in the 3D, we're still connected to them energetically. And so sometimes when people experience their missing of being home, they're really experiencing not a missing of a location or a planet, but actually the group beings. And so that's what we sort of would call in these sessions their soul families. And they're really profound. And many of you have had lifetimes with your soul families, and maybe some of you have lifetimes with your soul families now. It's very significant who's in your life now. And this is why they're wanting to say to you with much love today, some of those soul families have got lost on their purpose and path. And they probably were your biggest prickles to be able to help you grow and empower yourself independently from them. And so if you could reach out to those people who are on your minds and give them some love, some serious love, and can you send me $20? Probably don't end with that, but it's choice. But it seems like the teams are wanting to remind you through me today that there are so family members that have been so scared and so afraid. They have continually done a lockdown. They may have done an emotional lockdown a long time ago before even the pandemic occurred. And so who are those people in your past that keep popping up? I know people have dreams of ex-lovers or schoolmates or school friends. And even if you do make the time and effort to reach out to them and they don't respond, potentially they may have different emails or something, right? So don't take it personally. Don't not do it because you're afraid of being rejected. Do it, assuming you're still going to be rejected, but at least you've planted that seed. And remember what they said the other day about, well, what I said, but they popped it into my mind while I was speaking to you about the seed bell. All of those pressed forms of certain seeds that are all stuck together. They're called seed bells, right? Anyway, they are saying that some of you have gone so well with your little cactuses that you've covered the cactuses in all of these seeds, and they're just these walking seed bells. And at one point or another, accidentally or purposefully, one of those seeds is going to start taking germination. And boom, we can tell and we know sometimes seeds, when they start germinating, boof, you've got a bush right there. And that's so exciting. And let's just say in the climate and the vibrations of this planet right now is so fast, so super fast, that any seed that starts germinating now is going to be a profound growth. And a lot of people get really surprised, very surprised, when we do sessions and we ask about a sleepy little cactus friend, that they're very worried that they're going to stay here on the old earth and never shift and be left alone, blah, 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 right? Because that's how we perceive from their demeanor how, evolved they are and spiritual they are. And in sessions, it's very funny because the subconscious will say, oh, they've actually awoken quite rapidly. Because sometimes when you have good friendships, you are that two-legged race where you don't actually go very far. You just fumble over each other and you assume together you'll be really fast and feverish and be the winners. But sometimes for various reasons, you actually just stumble and fall on your face and never finish the crossing line because of, it wasn't the contract to work together as a team because you're out of sync. And so when you divide and you have to work on yourself and not rely on each other, because, sometimes when you rely on others, you're at a different step. So, there is that. So just trust how much you've grown since you've separated from that friend, and then assume that they have the opportunity to grow as well. But remember, where we need to grow and where other people need to grow is not going to be the same. We're not Siamese twins. And so you have to just accept where people's journeys and growth is. And sometimes it's almost funny because the subconscious says, oh, they've already evolved beyond where you're at. And they just needed that push, that separation to have that time by themselves. And it's quite shocking because here this person is all like heartbroken that their friend's going to stay on old earth and be, this prickly cactus forever. And when the subconscious says they've already evolved beyond you and you're the sort of slow stepping stone, it can trigger an ego. And I say that with much love to that client because I know she's listening. So, the thing is, we can sometimes really worry about our friends that we have experienced on the journey, but yet we really can just trust all is well. All is well because they've got their teams. They're not alone. And so sometimes we have had to be separated from those friends or family to distance ourselves to be able to get more in focus. Super purposeful. So the reaction that you'll have when you go into fear, when something new happens and you don't know the metaphysical perspective, right? So you'll have a reaction. It's usually a gasp of the body. Oh my gosh. And then just this whole feel. Now, for all of those empaths, if you know of and as soon as you hear an event that's really sad, flooding drowns people or something, empaths will feel the shock of the families processing that. And so it will be very deep and impactful to them because they can feel the consequences of that event, right? And so it will stay with them for ages and they won't know why. So, check your senses and your skill sets. When you feel and hear into an event that's of tragedy, do you actually collect a lot of that density from the loved ones and those people involved to be able to help transmute their energy to sort of share the load? And so there's so much that goes on when we hear and learn about certain events, and especially light workers who are there to be of service, to send well wishes and healing and higher frequency. When a higher frequency being knows of a tragedy, when you go in and think about those people that are suffering from that tragedy, you're giving them, not only are you taking some of their density away from them, but you're also giving them your light, your higher frequency focus. And so that gives them an opportunity to have a buffer. And so lots of people will say they feel really dazed when they're going through something, right? Like, is it the shock that is dazing them, or is it all of the support that is around them that they can't see energetically, people just supporting them as they're processing this and coming to terms with it emotionally and mentally? There's so much beauty in what occurs when we realize how much we support each other, even those you've never met before. So there's that. It's epic. It is epic when you start seeing and sensing things from the metaphysical perspective of how connected we are all. And so please recognize how you process fear, how you trip into fear, how you respond to fear, how you react to fear, and how you act towards fear. And often we're so afraid we don't want to know anything new, right? Because, I don't know. I freak out. I freak out when I hear something new someone could say. And that's valid. Sometimes we want to just hear small little things to be able to process it so we don't fumble. But right now we are so capable of mastering our emotions. We're not blocking our emotions, we're honoring the emotions. But instead of just indulging ourselves with the emotions and playing with the emotions, we're actually starting to balance the mind and the heart and be able to communicate with our minds to be able to understand what is the emotions that I'm feeling right now. We can identify it and understand, right, I'm feeling this way, and then let's unpack it. Let's understand why I am feeling this way. Is there an opportunity for healing from past? Is there something else that it reminds me of that is connected in with this? So all purposeful and always opportunities for growth. So don't try to rush it, but just notice your own pace and steps forward, because ultimately we're not needed to be stuck in an emotion. As soon as we identify with the emotion, then we can honor it, appreciate it, understand what our body is telling us, what our minds are telling us. And we're always going to have that gasp and shock of a new information to some degree as we process energetically what we're going through. And then we can choose to overcome it and empower ourselves and see the experiences and the lessons and the purposes for all. Fascinating times. So fantastic. Please, please, please drink more water. I know I always say this, but this is a really important time to drink more water as our bodies are changing and evolving faster and faster and faster. The best way to help our bodies, if you're getting those headaches, I'm noticing a lot of people are getting headaches because they're still not speaking their truth. And so they're blocking here. So then all this energy is just in here. And it's like your teams are trying to help you channel some information to share with your friends and family. And you're just like, never, I'll never speak to them again. So maybe there's that. So yeah, just check that out. See what you're holding back with, and see if that is your blocking point that you're doing to yourself, to then see how the rest of you can flow through. So remember, words have never killed anyone. They've only given people opportunities for empowerment and growth. And we know, while we do not enjoy triggering people, sometimes they need to be triggered. I know people don't have the agenda. Oh, I'm going to say this, and this is really going to trigger the shit out of them. No, we don't do that. And if you have that agenda, maybe you're not really online and of purpose, because the times where I've triggered people has not been my intention to trigger people at all. And sometimes I know that telling the truth and the higher perspective will trigger them, but that's not my like, fantastic. No, that's not. And so lots of people are afraid to speak their truth because it may trigger them to having to look and identify and grow and see a new perspective that they may have been avoiding. So I know lots of people are afraid to hurt people. But when your agenda is not to hurt people, your agenda is to speak the truth. You're only hurting yourself when you're not speaking your truth. And so are you sick of hurting yourself? Are you sick of suppressing self? I think at this kind of time we are. And so whatever you're bursting to share with someone, don't start off with the planet has been evacuated, because that usually scares them. But if this is where you want to go with them, you do you. But I have found in the past, it takes some conversations to get to that point. Usually I talk about the energetics of the planet and how sick and poisoned she's been. And what would that do to an ordinary body, let alone the planet's body? So lots of ways, lots of angles to have that conversation if you feel called to do it. But usually it's about supporting people to have a higher perspective that potentially they haven't been told the truth. And when these people are so focused on believing all the other false narratives that have disempowered them, it's usually we need to start off in acknowledging how challenging that must be for them and how much afraid they must be, because they've been constantly sold fear. When they watch that TV and that news, when they watch the news on TV, it really is just a fear creating machine to keep them on edge, to keep them afraid, and to tell them what to do next. So yeah, if you can't have a conversation with them about anything, all you can express to them freely is that you love them and appreciate them and want them to have the best day. How powerful is that? There's no controversy in there. So sense and feel into, breathe into, what am I supposed to be sharing with these people today when you are going to their houses for cups of tea. Okay, my friends, I love you. Continue on being fantastic. I know that you will be reflecting back on this lifetime with pride, because you know you're trying to be of best of service as possible, and you're taking this work seriously because you know that there is significant events coming and you want to be part of the solution for humanity and certainly not the problem. So much love, everybody. Have a fantastic day.